we are recording. Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to the office. In today's video, I'd like to talk about how I think you can improve your landscape photography with less. Now, when I say less, it kind of comes in different forms. I've kind of broken it down into 6 different ways you can apply the mantra, and yes, I do realize I sound like a hippie. You can apply the mantra of less to your photography and hopefully improve your images or improve the way you work. And especially now more than ever because of COVID-19 and the fact that we can't travel to kind of obvious destinations where it's, where you can get images, epic views and all that kind of thing. So I think by applying less to your photography, you will see an improvement. So I just want to discuss that whole topic in today's video. So welcome everybody, welcome. Before we get started, I want to give a very quick plug to my 2021 calendar. It's a calendar contains 12 images. All of the images are of a square aspect ratio. And, the images are just, I'm really happy with the images that are in here. I release this calendar every year and I am particularly proud of this one. Really happy with this. So that's available now and it's on my website. I'll stick a link below. So let's start with the first way of improving your photography with less. And we're going to talk about gear, less gear. So disclaimer, do as I say, not as I do. I'm aware that I've got more cameras than anyone with an X-T3, a 5D Mark IV, an X-T4, a Hasselblad film camera. I've even bought myself this massive camera, which I'll talk about in future videos. I don't want to actually reveal it yet, but look at the size of it. I don't know, I've pixelated it so you can't see it. But I think by applying less gear, now what do I mean? What do I mean less gear? What do I actually mean? So, let me give you an example. This is my Hasselblad 501cm film camera, and this I have 2 prime lenses, an 80mm and 150mm. In full frame terms, you're probably talking like 50mm equivalent and 85mm equivalent, something like that. And when I go out with this camera, and I'm restricted to only 2 focal lengths, the way in which I engage with the landscape completely changes. I'm looking at things differently. I'm observing things differently. And I'm very much aware that I can't get the really far away long shot. I can't get the big wide vista. So I start looking somewhere else, maybe somewhere I wouldn't normally look. And, I've got a couple of examples here. Back to this image, we have this image. Again, this was taken just on the beach near to my house, very local. Again, the same beach, probably taken about 20 minutes after the last shot. And I love these photographs and I'm convinced that these images, I'm convinced that I wouldn't have taken them if I'd have had more options with the focal lengths that I was shooting with. This image here that I photographed on my recent trip to Iceland, I was in this beautiful geothermal area surrounded by just utter, geology wonder. It was like a photographer's playground. It's actually very difficult to shoot. And I think by just being restricted to 2 lenses, 2 focal lengths, and knowing that I couldn't get everything in, again, I was looking for compositions much more intimate, just like this one. So it kind of, by having 2 lenses and restricting myself to 2 focal lengths, it really puts me in a different frame of mind when out practicing landscape photography. It's strange how it works, and I suppose the big fear is that you'll miss out, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. There'll be something epic and you haven't got the lens to shoot it. And yeah, that can be painful. So what I would say is if you're going on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Antarctica, maybe don't restrict yourself too much. But if you're just on a weekend out and about in a local area, enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the fresh air, give it a go. Restrict yourself to perhaps 2 prime lenses or 1 zoom lens and just see if it changes the way you interact with the landscape. So having less choice when it comes to focal length is certainly one way that I think can improve how you interact with the landscape. Another thing is having less camera. When I say less camera, what I basically mean is I shoot a lot with the Fuji X-T3 and it delivers a fantastic image. And if you're just starting out in landscape photography, or maybe you're doing it as a hobby and you do lots of other different types of photography, so you want a versatile camera, you don't need the high-end best gear to get good quality landscape photography images. You can get just as good images from small compact camera system. So number 2 is less field of view. And what that means is try shooting with longer focal lengths. I've just returned from a 10-day trip to Iceland, photographing every day, all day, every day. And I took with me this Fuji 10-24 lens, which on a full frame is the equivalent of a 16-35. And let me tell you now, this lens did not take a single photograph. And actually what I found with my own photography over the past, well, I don't know, for a long time, but certainly over the past 6 months is I've been shooting a lot less with a wide angle lens, and the vast majority of my images are a longer focal length, such as a 70-200 or a 50mm, or on a crop sensor that's 35mm, and you could just get fantastic images like this. And what it allows you to do is really hone in on the landscape and eliminate distractions and really dial down on the most important elements of the scene that you're looking at. This image is a great example. When I was up on this mountain ridge in Iceland, the view was unbelievable. It was breathtaking, and you just don't know where to start. So the natural thing to do, perhaps, may be to break out the wide angle lens and try and get a big shot of the whole area. And the image, whilst at a quick glance might look quite impressive because there's big, lots of mountains and lakes and stuff, but unless it's well balanced and well composed, it just becomes too crowded, too messy. And that's what I found at this location. So by using a longer focal length and focusing in on the elements of the scene, the elements of the landscape that were really important, which was the setting sun, the color, the clouds, and this wonderful island here in the middle of the lake. That was much better, I think, than what would have been a big wide landscape, where this would have almost just been a pixel, just a dot, a blot on the landscape. What else have we got here? Again, long lens, probably around 200mm. Just going in and picking out areas of light, areas of shadow, areas of contrast and texture and elements in the landscape. And I think that by shooting with a long lens, you engage differently with the landscape, because you're not just seeing the wide view. You start to really look at the character and the component parts of the landscape. And I think in today's day and age, where we can't really travel to the likes of Yosemite National Park, for example. Well, I know I can't anyway. You can more or less go out in your own backyard, and whereas sometimes with a wide lens from a particular viewpoint, you might only have one image, one shot, big vista. But with a longer focal length, a narrower field of view, less of a view, then you can start to pick out so many more compositions from the landscape than you can with a wide lens. And you can also dial it down and really create those minimal, peaceful images. Okay, the next way to apply less to your photography is less distractions, or should I say fewer distractions. Distractions are the devil. They really are. It's my most obsessive thing when out taking photographs. If I've composed a scene and I start to see distractions everywhere, and trying to eliminate those distractions is a really impactful way of improving the image that you're working on. This, for example, snowy day and the outline of an out of focus tree. I love this image. It's very, very simplistic, very peaceful, very tranquil. But it was done with intent, because if I'd have focused on the tree, I would have pulled all of the background into focus where there was fences, and this is quite a built-up area. There was fences, a footpath, and it was just horrible. It wasn't working. By pulling focus actually on the snowflakes and throwing everything else out of focus, all of a sudden I'm eliminating those distractions. This is another example. When I was by this lake photographing this scene, it was so tranquil, so peaceful. And to my eyes, there and then, it was perfect. But unfortunately, when I got the image back home into Lightroom, you can see we've got lots of scum on the water. There's fish causing ripples there. There's some more scum over here. And there's a little bit of mist, a little bit of smoke on the water just on the edge here. And all of those tiny things, to me, made the image feel unclean. And every time I looked at it, I didn't look at the scene as a whole. I just saw all the distractions. So I went in and I cleaned it up nice and easy. And I think the image, again, has been massively improved by a good bit of housekeeping. All right, the next one, the next thing, which I think is number 3, could be number 4. I don't know. I've already lost my flow. All right, this topic, this mantra, this thing of less, is one that I really had trouble articulating when scribbling down ideas for this video. And it is less outside influence. Less outside influence from all sorts of things, I think, can improve your photography. Controversial, maybe. But influence is great, okay? Every photographer out there has been influenced by other photographers. It's not a bad thing. You know, I have books by photographers who I adore, and their work influences me no end. And, you know, I never try and hide that fact, ever. But there are negative influences, and unfortunately it comes in the form of social media. So the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, why are you a photographer? Why are you out there with your camera, you know, at 5 a.m. on some wet, miserable hill somewhere? Why are you doing it? And if the answer is because you love the outdoors, you love nature, you love to create, you love to capture moments in time and create pieces of art, then you're far more at risk from suffering from negative outside influence. If the answer for doing landscape photography is because you want to get famous, you want to make money, and you want to have a big Instagram account, then ignore this bit and skip to the next. But my point is, when you go on Instagram and you see and I say Instagram, anything, any kind of platform, but I'm going to use Instagram as this example. When you go on Instagram and you see those epic shots that are just like, then you look at your equally as epic scene that you shot that morning, and you look at and you look and you think, you know, why doesn't mine look anything like his or hers? And the truth is, the sad truth is that a lot of those epic, insane images that you see on social media, it's fake, it's fakery, it's trickery. It's not real. It's I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I'm not saying it's no good or there's anything wrong with it, but it's not it's not the type of landscape photography where you're in touch with the elements. It's more, oh God, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. It's more Photoshop art. You know, it's more composite. You know, it's a completely different mindset, right? Let's think of it that way. It's a completely different mindset. So when you see these images, and the worst are the photographers who don't declare it. You know, they'll put out this epic image, and it's 5 or 6 images from different locations all put together with tons of layers in Photoshop, and it just looks insane. And being influenced by that kind of work can have such a negative impact on how you feel about your own photography, because maybe yours isn't as epic, right? And what happens is you'll go out and you'll try and recreate that, and you'll end up shooting stuff that you don't want to shoot, but you think you should shoot because you think you'll get more views on Instagram, you think you'll get more of a name for yourself. Whereas the truth is, I think in this day and age, to get a name for yourself, you've really, really got to do your own thing and not do what everyone else is doing. The worst thing you can do in any industry ever is be a sheep. You need to swim against the tide. And so I think, you know, having these negative outside influences, and also, you know, negative comments, negative critique. You know, if you're a member of a photography club, maybe a judge has commented how your work doesn't adhere to the rule of thirds or something. So now you go out and you put everything on thirds. That's bad. Do what feels right. Do what you enjoy doing. Don't do what you think other people think you should do. something like that. But yeah, I wasn't really sure how to articulate that. Now the next one, which moves on seamlessly from influence, is less influence, less pressure. By having less outside influence, you will then naturally find that there's less pressure on you to create these epic images. So what you'll do is you'll start to perhaps experiment more. You'll start to look for images where you wouldn't normally look for images. You'll start to try things differently. You'll start to maybe not come away with 50 images from one shoot, but try and work on just one image and try and finesse that image to get it perfect, because there's no real pressure. You don't have to upload to Instagram every day, 365. You can just go out and be at one with the landscape, be patient, wait for everything to be perfect, and then get the shot. So putting less pressure on yourself to come away with an image from every shoot, I think is a very, very positive thing. It has been for me, and I think it will be for most photographers as well. All right, so that's enough of the wishy-washy stuff. Let's get on to the final way in which you can improve your photography with less. And if you've stuck through the video this long, thank you. Make sure you give it a like, a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. It's a massive help. It's probably the most helpful thing you can actually do for this channel is to click the thumbs up button. So there you go. Right, what is it? What's the final thing? It is less is more. I'm talking about photography compositions, okay? I'm talking about breaking the landscape down into component parts, okay? Not going out with the wide lens and trying to make everything line up together and a leading line through to a mountain and flowers in the foreground. I'm talking about go out with the vision of breaking up the landscape, not into now. I've been spending a lot of time with Alistair Ben, which is what I'm saying now may as well be Alistair saying it. Look at the landscape in terms of it not being objects like a tree and a mountain, but shapes, tone, contrast, texture, breaking it down into component parts. And it's a great exercise. Don't see a mountain, see a shape. So that's, if you go out with the idea of doing that, and creating these nice quiet scenes where it's just, just shapes. That's all I can say. If you go out with the idea of doing that, not only will you have a lot of fun doing it, but you will engage more with the landscape because you'll really be looking at it in a different way. And you'll have far more photographic opportunities, because hopefully you'll be seeing things that you previously have never seen. And I reckon you'll have a better hit rate than if you go out looking for something epic with the wide lens. Because we all know when you go out looking for the epic, very rarely do you get the light. Well, in a lot of cases, you don't need light when you start looking for the quiet, minimal scenes, such as this. It's a great example. So things to look for. Look for repeating patterns, abstract, color, and contrast. This is a forest panorama. No foreground, no leading line, no single subject, but it's color and repeating patterns, and it works really well. I love this image. Negative space, empty space. Now this is just a huge swell. This was last year or the year before when there was a big storm coming in, and I literally just stood in the tide and just shot away, and I'm capturing the elements. There's no subject, there's nothing really, but there is this sense of drama and this sense of impending doom, which is actually kind of cool. Okay, it's not peaceful and tranquil. I suppose it could be, but it's not. Look for blue light transitioning with golden light. So that would be obviously warm light from the sunset, I believe, and you got cool blue light where the landscape's in deep shadow. Those transitions work beautifully well. You can see that here as well. This is just an old scrubby bush by the side of a road, but we've got beautiful backlit yellow leaves, and then we've got the heavy rain and the blue light. And it's not a thing. It's not a mountain. It's not a waterfall. What is it? It's nothing, but it's fun and it's simple and it's minimal, and I love it. And it's a great way to start seeing photography and seeing images. Again, negative space. Never be afraid to include nothing in your frame. Less is more. Less is definitely more in a lot of cases. And yeah, a panorama This was taken Fuji, I think this was Velvia 50 on the Hasselblad X-Pan. It's just a single mountain. It's a single little volcano there in the Adriatic Sea. And look how much space I've included around it. So much space. Negative space is a great thing. Adds context and really, hones the viewer in on the subject. And obviously the light helps as well. And yeah, I'll say it again. Don't be afraid to use negative space. It creates mystery. To the viewer, this just could be the last bit of landfall for hundreds of miles. There could just be nothing for miles and miles. Or there could be a polar bear just here. Who knows? Create mystery with your images, negative space. And that's the last image. Thank God for that. I did feel like it was dragging on a bit. But I do hope that this video, if anything, has helped you maybe think about approaching landscape photography in a slightly different way if you don't already. It's never my intention to patronize anybody or anything like that. I just felt like giving a few tips. And don't forget landscape, the calendar is available now. And subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Give us a thumbs up if you haven't. I'd appreciate that. And that's it. All done. Go out there, get creative, and try to do it all with less. All right. Bye for now.